In last week's video, I shared how to create these squares for a sampler scarf inspired by this beautiful one sold in stores. In this week, we're going to be continuing on with the specialty stitches. The ones that you see here were chosen because they are similar to what you see in the inspired piece, just in case you want to get that same kind of look. Now these are a little bit more complicated, so if you're fairly new to crocheting, I'd recommend that you check out this video where I share more stitches that are a little bit more beginner friendly that would also work really well with this scarf. So we're working on 3 designs today: a variation of a crochet cable stitch, the Moroccan tile stitch, and a simple X shape that's made by using treble crochets. At the end of the tutorial, I will talk a little bit about how to join everything together, but I will be going into more detail next week in part 3. For just a quick overview, the scarf that we're working on measures approximately 10 by 70 inches and is comprised of granny squares and specialty stitches joined together with simpler stitches in various colors. To obtain this gauge, I'm using a weight 4 yarn with a 4mm hook, so sizes may vary depending on what you're using. If you look at the reference photo, you'll notice this really pretty cable-like stitch that's repeated throughout the rows of the scarf. First, I'm going to show you how to do the stitch itself as a standalone panel, and then I'll talk about how you can adapt it if you want to do it on top of existing stitches. To work this stitch, we're kind of working backwards. We're going to start with a treble crochet, and then we're going to work the double crochets behind it. So here's the front. This is what it looks like on the back. You notice you have little double crochets that sit behind the treble. To get started here, start with a multiple of 3 plus 2. For this little sample here, I'm just going to work up to 12 plus the 2 more, that's 14. So adding a slip knot to my hook, 12 plus 2 more. Now working in the second chain from the hook, we're going to add a single crochet, 1, 2, and then a single crochet all the way across. So for this little sample here, this is going to give me a total of 13 single crochets. Chain 1 and turn. I did a chain 1 here to give myself some wiggle room to make my treble crochet. If it feels too tight for you, then go up to 2 chains. The sequence that we're using here is we're going to skip 2 stitches and then work a treble crochet into the 3rd stitch, and then we're going to go back and create double crochets in those 2 skipped stitches. So to begin, create a treble crochet into the 3rd stitch. 1, 2, 3. We're not counting the stitch here where the little chain is. Just completely ignore that for now. 1, 2, 3. Create a treble crochet. Now what's interesting here is depending on where we place those double crochets will determine where this treble goes. We want it to poke forward, so we're going to be working behind the treble crochet. So we're going to create our first double crochet in that first skipped stitch, go under, going into the stitch, pull your yarn through, and create your double crochet. Now in the second skip stitch, repeat the same thing, another double crochet. Going behind the cable, going into the stitch, create your double crochet. So now we're just going to repeat this all the way across. We're going to create another treble crochet, so yarn over twice, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and then in the 3rd stitch, create your treble crochet. Now going back to the 2 skipped stitches, add a double crochet in each stitch. Yarn over, going into the first skipped stitch, And now in the second one, another double crochet. So we've done 2 cables. Now we're just going to repeat again. Create a treble crochet by yarning over twice, skip 2 stitches, and then in the third stitch, create your treble crochet. Awesome. And now go back to the 2 skip stitches and add your double crochets. So there's 1. And now in the next one, and then finally you should see 3 stitches available at the end. Same thing. Working into the last stitch, create your treble crochet. And then working your doubles into the 2 skipped stitches. One and 2. Okay, and when you reach the end, add a double crochet into the beginning stitch just to give it a nice straight edge. And this should bring your stitch count up at the top back to 13. Chain 1 and turn. And now we're just going to repeat the same process on the other side. Treble crochet and work into the third stitch. Again, we're ignoring that very first stitch. 1, 2, 3. And it's really easy to see the third stitch because it looks like a little circle just sitting on its own. Create your treble crochet. Now before we were doing our double crochets to push the cable forward, this time we want to push it back so it's facing the same side as the other one. So to do that, we're just going to yarn over and work in front of the cable into that first skip stitch with our double crochet. There's 1. And 2. And as you can see, it pushes it forward. And we're just going to continue this all the way across. Treble crochet, working into the third stitch. 1, 2, 3, very easy to see. Create your treble. And now we're working our double crochets in front of the cable. Awesome. And we're just going to continue this all the way across. Treble into the third stitch. And then 2 doubles, 1 in each of those skipped stitches. Coming up to our final stitch. 1, 2, 3. Working a double into the 2 skipped stitches. And adding a double crochet at the very end in that same stitch just to give it a nice straight edge. And this should bring your stitch count back up to 13 or whatever you're working on. So that's how to work the stitch, but how do we apply this to the scarf? You can create the panels and join them together, or if you want to just work in rows, just build your scarf in rows, it's going to be slightly different. You're going to be focusing on a number that is a multiple of 3 plus 1 because you're not creating that base single crochet. My chain count here is 37. That's a multiple of 3 plus 1, so it's 36 plus 1. Fasten on however you like best and create a chain 1 just to give yourself some wiggle room. I'm just doing a single crochet here, or standing single I mean. We're going to create our treble crochet. We're just going to ignore that first stitch and start with these 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3. But you may find that, let's say for example, I don't have my 37 stitches. Let's say I have that straight to 36. Then what I would do instead is count that as a stitch and then skip here, 1, 2, 3. So play with your stitch count. You do have wiggle room here. You can make it work either way. Treble crochet, we're skipping 3 stitches. I'm going to ignore that first stitch, 1, 2, 3, and create my treble crochet. And now because this is facing forward, I want that cable to poke forward. So I'm going to work behind the stitches to do my 2 double crochets. Okay, and then I'll just continue along. Skip 2 stitches and create my cable and double crochets. So looking at the reference photo, it looks like they use about 11 of these panels. So it's 2 rows of the cable plus a double crochet in between throughout the body of the scarf. So you can plug and play with this and just fit it in however you like best. Okay, next we're going to be working on the Moroccan tile stitch. Now here I'm just working with 1 color, but you can actually do 2 colors like you see on the sample scarf. When you bring in that extra color, it does add more ends to weave in because it's not being carried all the way through, but you'll see what I mean as we start working on it. This square measures approximately 4 by 4 inches, which is the goal for this scarf sampler. To work the stitch, we're going to do a multiple of 3 plus 2. I'm going to start with a chain of 15 plus 2, which will give me a total of 17 chains. So now we're going to start our first sequence. Starting into the second chain from the hook, add a single crochet, chain 2, skip 2, and work a single crochet into the third chain. Chain 2, skip 2, and work a single crochet into the third chain. Continue doing this all the way across. When you come to the end, you should see 3 chains, skip 2, and then in that final one, add your single crochet. You should have 5 gaps. Now we're going to stop there, so remove your hook and replace it with a stitch marker. That way while you're working on the other stitches, that won't come undone. And now we're going to go all the way back to the very beginning. Okay, now bringing in your fun color, you're going to fasten on into the top of the first single crochet that you made. We're doing a chain 2 or 3 to serve as a double crochet, or you can do a standing double crochet if you prefer. I'm just going to go ahead and fasten on with a standing single crochet and chain 2. And now we're just going to be going into each of these gaps with 2 double crochets. We're creating our clusters. Now if you prefer doing 3 double crochets, you certainly can, but because I'm only using 2 double crochets for the rest of the scarf, I'm going to keep it consistent with that. But definitely change it to 3 if you want. We're just going into that space with 2 double crochets, or 3, chain 1. This will help me get to the next space, and now I'm just going to repeat that. 2 double crochets into that space, chain 1, 2 double crochets into the space, and just continue this. We have 1 more space here, right next to the stitch marker. and a chain 1. And now we're ready to rejoin the neutral color. And I find that it's a lot nicer if I add a couple of chains to reach that height. It just looks better when it's all finished. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick. You may only need 1, but try 2 and see what you like. And now I'm just going to pull that neutral color through the loop, tighten everything around a little bit here. And now I'm ready to restart the next row with the neutral color. Don't snip your yarn, because if you just stick with this one color, you can continue using it and carrying that yarn up as you work. If you are using more than one color for your striping, then you will have to snip this and rejoin. But for now, chain 2. I'm just going to use one color for that, so I won't be snipping that. So now we're going to be creating V stitches between these clusters. A V stitch is just a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. So working into this stitch, crossing over this first cluster, going into here, yarn over, go into the stitch, go through everything, pull your yarn through, and create a double crochet. Chain 1, and do it again in the same space. Yarn over, go into the stitch, pull your yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2. And that's your V stitch. And you see it just goes through everything on both sides. Now we're just going to repeat this all the way across. We're going to go right across and do this again. If you find it's working too tightly, by all means add a chain 1 in between these, but you might not need it. And I'm just doing another V stitch. That's a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in the same stitch. Continuing on, V stitch, one more, and now we're going to create a double crochet into the very first single crochet from the first row. So it's kind of an extended double crochet. Just to give it a nice side. Just play with it and tuck things in a little bit here just to neaten it up a little bit. We'll be covering all of that on the final round when we do single crochets all the way around, so don't worry about it too much. But again, remove the hook and replace it with a stitch marker. And we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. At this point, you can fasten on with a new color or continue on with the same color. Either way, grab your color and chain 4. I'm just going to go through the stitch there. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're going to work our clusters into the previous V stitches. So going across to the first V stitch, 2 double crochets. Chain 1 into the next V stitch, 2 double crochets. Chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1, 2 double crochets, chain 1. Now we're just going to do a double crochet under the stitch marker here. So right in this stitch here. Oops, I dropped it. There we go. And now we're going to bring in the neutral color. Again, I like to add a chain or 2 to get up to the height of that row we just did. And then just pull that neutral color through. And now we're ready to continue on. So chain 2 and turn. And now we're going to start our V-stitches again, and we're going to begin right here, right above that cluster from that very first row of clusters. It's going to be right above it. I think I'll go right here. So that's a double, chain 1, double. And then I'm just going to go across and continue on with my V-stitches. We have one more here at the end. It'll be in line with that cluster from underneath. And now we're going to add a double crochet into the very end here, just to give it a nice straight edge. Now you're just going to add your stitch marker, fastening on with a chain 4, just hooking through the loops there, pulling it through, chain 4, then working into that very first V-stitch, 2 doubles, chain 1, continuing all the way across, grabbing my neutral, chaining up 1 or 2, I like 2, pulling it through, chain 2 and turn. When I was learning this stitch, it was really confusing for me as far as knowing when to put the V-stitches. So something that really helped me was to keep an eye on my V-stitches and clusters. So starting for the row 1, you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clusters with 4 V-stitches. For the next row, you're going to have it in reverse, 4 colored clusters with 5 V-stitches, and so on. It's going to keep alternating. So working after this cluster, create a V-stitch, and continue across. Now a double crochet to finish it off. I'm going down and around. Grab your stitch marker. Come back to your fun color and chain 4. And this is easy here. We're just going straight into those V-stitches with our 2 clusters or our 2 double crochets, making a cluster with a chain 1. Don't forget that chain 1. And now we're just pulling in the neutral again. Okay, pull the neutral color through, chain 2. We only did 4 V-stitches before. This time we need to do 5. We have that nice clean space to work into. One more. And then when you come to the very end, double crochet to give it a nice edge. We're doing our last row of color here, so just fasten it back on with a chain 4. Doing 2 double crochets in each V-stitch. with a chain 1 in between, and bring in the neutral again. We're on our very last row. Chain 2 and turn. And you know you're on your last row when you see 5 rows of clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just going to do my V-stitch. Then a double crochet to straighten that last edge. So what you can do here is you can fasten off now, or you can do a round of single crochets all the way around. It's completely up to you. If you look at the reference photo, you'll see this really pretty stitch that looks like a little square made of treble crochets. So we're going to give that a try. Begin with a magic ring, or you can do a chain 5 with a slip stitch. We want a nice big ring to work into. Slip stitch into the first stitch. And I'm going to carry this tail as I work, that way I can tighten it when I'm all finished. So to do the stitch, we're going to do 3 treble crochets together. So start with a chain 3 or 4, whichever you prefer. I like 3. And now we're going to do 2 more, but we're going to join them all together. So to do this, we're going to yarn over twice, going into the center, pull your yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and stop there. You're not going to complete it yet. Let's do this one more time. Yarn over twice, going in, pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. For this one, you'll see 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, and pull through all 3 stitches. Now we're going to do a chain of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're going to repeat this into the center again. 3 treble crochets together. Yarn over twice, going into the ring, pull the yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Yarn over twice, going into the ring, pull your yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and we're just going to stop there. We have 3 loops on our hook. We're just doing it one more time. Yarn over twice, going into the ring, pull your yarn through, yarn over, pull through 2, pull through 2, and you should see 4 loops on your hook. Yarn over and pull through all 4 loops. Chain 5, and we're just going to do this again. 3 treble crochets together. I'm just going to do it. I won't keep saying it as I'm doing it, because that might be a little annoying for some of you. At least that's what I've been told. Okay, pull through all 4 loops and chain 5. And we're doing 1 more into the center, 3 trebles together. Okay, yarn over, pull through all 4 loops, chain 5, and complete with a slip stitch into the first stitch that you made there. And then you can fasten off. And there's our really pretty little square. And now we're just going to go around this with single crochets in our neutral color to finish it off. We want to create some corners and sides to this, so I'm going to fasten on in a side. I'm just going to start with 4 singles on the side. In the corners, I'm going to do a single crochet, chain 2, single crochet, continue on with 4 singles on the side, corner, I'm going to do 1 single, chain 2, 1 single, 4 singles on the side, corner, 1 single, chain 2, 1 single, and then 4 on the side again. And then in the corner, 1 single, chain 2, 1 single. And then add a slip stitch into the first stitch made and fasten off. And you can play around with this. You might find that 5 single crochets work better, or maybe 2 single crochets with a chain in between. Just play around with this and see what works best with your yarn. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to join these together. So I would recommend, if you want to follow along with me, to just hold off on the edging here until part 3 of the video, where I'll have a better answer for you on that. But otherwise, there are a couple of options. You could either finish one square completely and then just do a join as you go. If you look at the reference photo, they have 3 of them joined together. Or you could just do 3 of them individually with the single crochets all the way around, and then just join them together with a tapestry needle. If you find this square too gappy, then you can replace it with any kind of square that you like that measures approximately 2 by 2 inches, and you'll be good to go. Because our goal here is to do something that creates a 6-inch width, because we're going to add a 4-inch square to the side of it. So basically that's it on the specialty stitches. Now there are other stitches that kind of joins everything together. I'm seeing rows of double crochets and rows of granny stripes, just to kind of pull things together and give some variation. So if you don't want to wait for part 3 where I join everything together, I would recommend that you just reference that photo, and you can kind of piece it together yourself and use those double crochets and granny stripes to help pull everything together. But if you do want to see suggestions on how to join everything together, that video will be out next week if you're watching in real time. Once that video is made, I'll be sure to add a link to it at the end of this video, as well as in the description box below the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.